Hey guys, welcome to Comics and Cosplay, and today we're doing another Google Hangout interview. And today we were fortunate enough to get the guests nominated back from our previous video with Kay, and I'm speaking with Sox Cosplay and Bindi Smalls. Hi guys, thanks for being on the channel.
Yeah,
Hello,
man.
thanks for
Good to
having
see you.
us.
So, well, let's start with the basics, because now I'm kind of obsessed with how everyone got their name for their cosplay channel. Uh, so I guess we'll start with you, Bindi, because yours, I always, whenever I think of like Bindi Smalls, it always makes me think of Biggie Smalls.
Oh
So
yeah,
I'm always like, Big Bindi. So,
Right.
they have a lot in common.
We do. We're both called Big Papa. I'm kidding. I'm not actually called that at all. So Bindi Smalls, it's a funny story. This is kind of a long story. I'll keep it short. I used to play World of Warcraft a ton, and when I was trying to create my character, one of my first characters in my account, which is a female orc shaman, I was struggling to figure out a name, so I went through random and eventually landed on Binda, Binda, and I just didn't. I liked it, but I didn't like the way it sounded, so I changed the A to an I, and that was Bindi. That was my name. Um, I tried to keep it short, 5 characters or less, because you don't want to like whisper someone and type out their entire name. So that was Bindi. Smalls,
She's small.
yeah, I get I got that nickname from Sean actually.
wait, did you guys meet through WoW?
Yeah.
Yes. Like, we didn't know each other. We lived in different states. We didn't know anyone. There was no intermingling of, like, 5 degrees of Kevin Bacon or 7 degrees of Kevin Bacon. 5 degrees. Anyway, nothing like that. So we solely met through World of Warcraft.
Ah, see, okay,
Yeah.
now these interviews are just showing that like everything leads back to World of Warcraft.
Yeah, it does. It does.
Okay, and as you guys know, as you guys were candidates nominated, I'm going to ask you guys for a couple of people, 2 or 3, that you should nominate to be on my show next and the next guest for Comics and Cosplay.
I'll start. I nominate Drastic Link, Nick Cooper. I think he should be on and do an interview because he's a game dev as well as a cosplayer, and I think that's kind of an interesting mixture. And I'd like to know more about his stance on that.
I would love to hear from BGZ Studios, Daryl, um, because I know he's a pretty well-spoken guy, but he doesn't speak up very much. Um, and I also think he's pretty funny. And I also think, I mean, he was part of the Journey Beyond, so he is moving and shaking. So I think he would be a good person to talk to. And I think he's kind of dreamy a little
All
bit.
right. All right, so the gauntlet has been laid down, and I'll be reaching out to both Nick and BG Studios to be on the show, so hopefully they will accept and we can interview them both. So most people might know you guys because you guys have been championing the 3D printing revolution in cosplay. Um, and so I know I've learned a ton from you guys. What has been your experience, I guess, kind of so far with 3D printing and cosplay, and what opportunities has it brought, and what have you?
As far as 3D printing and cosplay, I mean, at first there were a few difficulties. We had to learn the
Shoot.
technology, the design, software, all of it. Um, Sean started learning the hardware side, and I started learning the software side, and eventually we both kind of crossed over, and we know pretty much all of it independently. So I know the hardware side and software side. He knows the software side and hardware side, et cetera, et cetera. So,
Hmm.
um, but in the beginning, learning all of this stuff was the biggest challenge because we saw potential there. We saw so much potential, but we didn't know how to do that yet. We didn't know how to use it yet. Um, what opportunities has it provided? The ability to make some really cool stuff with a lower cost, essentially, and
Yeah. And while we're
yeah,
sleeping and
and while we're
while we're at
sleeping,
work,
it saves
it's kind of
it
nice.
saves time now. It didn't in the beginning because we were still learning how to use everything properly, how to print things properly. But now it saves so much time. I can play video games and have my armor printing where I couldn't do that before. I'd have to just give up video games for a while just to make stuff. So.
Your costume's primarily 3D printed now going forward, outside of like stuff you have to sew and stuff like that, or do you still make anything, I guess, the old-fashioned way, if you will?
So we're looking at Malthael for Diablo 3, and he's definitely got some pieces of armor that are really good to print, like his weapons, which I have like right here actually. So I have 2 of these things, and so like all the detail and stuff on there was. Let's see if it'll resume. Yeah. This is perfect. This is 3D printing's bread and butter. But then he has like this big chest piece. You know, it's like
big armor plates essentially.
Yeah.
Those aren't. We could
print
reprint them, but those aren't. They don't lend themselves to the technology because they're so big, and the level of detail on those is actually quite low.
Yeah,
So
it's big flat pieces.
It'd be advantageous to make it out of something else that's already large and flat, like Sintra or foam or Warbler or whatever we decide to make it out of. But for the most part, I'd say like 80% of our stuff outside of sewing is 3D printed, and that's kind of a lowball figure. For my Nova cosplay that I'm making, most of it is 3D printed. The only things I think I'm not going to 3D print are the parts that go around the ankles or the knees, things that need to be very, very flexible, that still look like armor. So those will probably be foam. But everything else is 3D printed.
I had seen people 3D printing in kind of the beginning stages when it was just becoming popular. But I learned a lot of the extra steps and things I didn't really know. But for people that haven't been able to go to one of your panels and things like that, can you give like a quick step-by-step process or a quick overview of the process of, seeing a model to what all is necessary to get it printed out and, get the finished product that you wear on the con floor?
Yeah, for sure. Tosh, actually, if you want to talk, I can go get things. I have things in every state of build.
Oh, okay. Yeah, sure.
So you talk. I'm going to run around. I'll be back.
Okay. So if I want to start making something 3D printed, first and foremost, you have to have the model that you're going to print. You have to have the digital object that you're going to send to the printer. So that could be, you can either make that yourself with 3D design software, or you can download it from an online repository for 3D models. Some of the most popular being Thingiverse, as well as My Mini Factory. There's also another online repository gaining steam called Umagine.com. All of these different sites have thousands of models, 3D models that you can download for free and print. You can send them to your printer. So if they already exist, you can already send that to your printer. It's very easy. If you have to make it yourself, it'll take a little bit of time and experience and knowledge in 3D design software. But if it already exists, obviously you just go get it and pay attention to to licensing for all of the models, because some models are completely open. You can download them, print them, sell them. You can modify them, sell them. Some are a little bit more locked down, so you can print them yourself and do whatever you want personally, but you can't sell it or distribute it. So it really depends. Okay, and Sean's back with some more stuff, so I'm going to let him take over and show you guys the steps, the different steps to finishing.
I'm going to see what the camera can show. Okay, so these are pieces that are straight off the printer. So you can see that they are blue because it's the color we went with, and they're full of like airs. And you can see a joint right there. See the kind of doo-doo line in the middle? It's like a cement. So we glue them up, right? And then you have to get the lines to go away so that, there we go. You can hear them, right? So one of the techniques we use is filler primer, spray paint. So you can see the lines are still there, but they're not as bad. They're kind of filled in. There's another product we just got that I could talk about forever called Ecstasy 3D. It's made by Smooth On. So this is a coat of that. You can see how shiny it is now. So you basically have to like smooth it up. If we're not using Ecstasy 3D, I use spackle, wall spackle. So this is sanded. This is not sanded. and that's another way to fill in the lines. And then we repeat that a bunch, and then we spray it, and you'll get something like this.
Wow, that's
So you
pretty
basically
cool.
have to move it up and then paint it.
About how many layers of like spackle and bondo does it take to fill in all the errors?
It depends on how bad they are. Some pieces are like this Halo helmet, which really doesn't have any errors in it. That would probably take one, if that. This new Ecstasy 3D stuff is really promising, and where it would probably take several coats with another product, it's doing it fast. It's doing it in one. So this is a really, really cool thing we're hoping to make use of. But yeah, there's a lot of elbow grease, like to sand it and resand it and resand it, and then spray it with filler primer and sand it. That's the most time-consuming bit for us. Because the printer, we don't work at all. Then the work really starts once it comes off.
That is incorrect.
If she makes the model, yeah, the model takes a long time.
Making the model by far takes the longest amount of time, depending on how simple or how complex that actually is. For Nova, these were relatively simple. It's just like it's one of her mask things. This is relatively simple. The model, there's not as much detail on this as there is on one of those Maltheo blades that he had before. So it really depends.
This is a shoulder for Nova, and I'm holding it very close to the camera so you can kind of see the detail in it. But one of the cool things about 3D printers is that if you have a mistake, like if you Tosh and you print this
Way
in
too
like
small.
little people size, then she just reprinted. Do you have a bigger one? Yeah, you have part of it. Show
Yeah.
them yours.
This is one of the
Here.
photos, but yeah, it's much larger compared to this. So you can see, like, obviously this was not the right size, but this is about $2.50 worth of material. So reprinting it was easy and cheap. It didn't
Yeah, not a big deal.
cost me very much. It's so you're not really losing out. Say if I were to make that out of Warblood and such, it's a little more expensive per square inch of Warblood. Yeah.
And that's perfect. I was just going to ask how expensive it is to print out these different things.
It's really not bad. Do we have a roll we could show? The roll of plastic. Actually, I'm going to turn my camera a lot. So next to the pink butt painting, there's a bunch of these spools stacked up. Those are like what's left when we're done with a roll of filament. And each roll is 1 kilogram, and each roll is like $35. So what does that translate to? These Maltheo blades is what? These are nothing.
That cami gauntlet right next to you is half a roll.
Oh, there you go.
And I made that extremely dense
Yeah.
so that it wouldn't break. Yeah,
Those
so,
are from her cami outfit. And there, see through them.
yeah, they're
Oh,
pretty
wow.
dense, as you can see. They're pretty thick. But yeah, that's about half a roll there.
I'm Metroid when I use them because we made them so small I can't get my hand through it. Yeah,
Yeah, they fit fine.
we're the Mega Man.
Nice.
But yeah,
So,
that's what
our
they
last
translate to.
kind of 3D printing question before we just go on to other general stuff. If somebody wants to learn to do all this wonderful like 3D printing and need to learn to make the models and the software, what would be a good place for them to start or to learn how to, go down this journey? This is a great opportunity to self-plug yourself.
But some places you can go to start. First, I would say, if you want to get started 3D printing, there are now more and more YouTube tutorials about this. A great place to start would be R3D Printing. It's the subreddit specifically for 3D printing. It's really picking up. There are a lot of knowledgeable people there, and a lot of people there are willing to help you. It's getting better.
But what about more with a focus on modeling? Because for most people, that's where they're going to have to start.
Okay. Specifically for, if you're 3D printing for cosplay, a lot of the models you want don't necessarily exist right now, and you'll have to make them or have them commissioned. So what you can do to make them, you'd have to find some 3D modeling software. You can use Blender, which is my favorite right now, Blender, and you can get that from blender.org. It's completely free and open source. It's awesome. You can also use Sculptress, which is free. You can use professional 3D modeling software, which people use in video game industries and stuff like that, called Maya. It's free if you're a student. 3ds Max, also free if you're a student.
Google SketchUp, but it's not that great for organic shapes, curvy shapes.
It's not really that great for organic stuff. There's FreeCAD as well, which is a CAD-based CAD modeling software, which is not quite great for organic stuff, but if you're making just like cylinders and...
And then where do you learn to use those? Tosh?
Sorry?
Where do you learn to use them? That's where you get them.
YouTube is the best
possible
way to get started learning this stuff without actually paying for like an academy or anything. There are online academies that are great, like cgcookie.com, as well as digitaltutors.com. Those are also great places to go, but they require a subscription.
You can also check out community colleges. As weird as that sounds, we were shocked. There's a community college like across the street from us, and they have almost $100,000 worth of 3D printers. They have some really nice ones. So not only can they teach you to use them, but you can get your hands on some like commercial level printers, which I'm actually considering enrolling in classes just to be like, oh yeah, teach me how to 3D print, but let's check out those printers you got in the back room because that's what I'm really here for. So yeah, community college is if you actually want to go to school. Most community colleges are doing 3D modeling and some straight up 3D printing.
First, how long have both of you been cosplaying, and how did you get into the scene?
We've both kind of been cosplaying for the same amount of time. I made my first cosplay when I was it was a long time ago. I was still in college. I made one, and it was Chun-Li, and I wore it to a con, really loved it, but I just didn't have time in college to keep cosplaying. So I waited and graduated college, had a stable job, etc. Now I had time and money, so I started making more elaborate Halloween costumes, and eventually Sean and I both made Borderlands costumes.
Yep, that's my answer too. When we made we like really went overboard on these Borderlands costumes, her Moxie and my Psycho, and people were like, oh, those are really cool, and then she's like, we should take these to a convention, so we went to Anime USA, and we got mobbed. So it was like a good time, and we got hooked, and from there out, we've been doing it ever since.
And that's correct. So we got mobbed. He actually posted our photo to Reddit, doing like kind of a funny pose, like size. Was it in size Gangnam Style?
Yeah, I was screaming at her butt.
So he was the Psycho, dressed as a Psycho, doing the screaming at the butt pose from size Gangnam Style, and I was dressed as Moxie, and they were both kind of like hot topics at the time, Borderlands and size Gangnam Style. So that went to the front page of Reddit for a while. I think the highest position, we were like 4th listed on the front page, and that was really cool. So I think after that we were like, okay, I guess we should just get into this now.
So the next question I have for you guys is funny stories from cons or conventions that you think are hilarious. Because I have one that involves you guys, but I'm curious what ones you guys have.
Oh, I'll tell you if you tell me.
So my funny story about you two is the first time I met you guys, which was at
Katsucon.
Katsucon, yeah.
Yeah.
So we totally, me and my cosplay partner Nell, totally crashed your hotel room party. But I think Nick had told Janelle, and Janelle told me, so I came with her because we're always together. And so we get there, and it's like a suite party.
Yeah.
You guys had a really kick-ass suite. I don't know how you pulled that off.
I asked for a free upgrade, and I got one.
Really?
Yeah, so many last minute cancellations.
Life is very simple. Yeah. Remember the snow? There was that horrible snowstorm. So like, they're like, oh yeah, we got a room, you can have it, and I was like, sweet.
So I come in and like, I mean, typical hotel party stuff. So like, we're all just kind of hanging out, but like, Kay is there, and he is just blitzed out of his mind.
He was.
He's not on premium pass out yet, but he's just like blitzed.
And he was on the way.
And then Ash B shows up like 10 minutes later, also in the same state.
Yes, she was. She absolutely was.
And like people are trying to take care of them, and like it's getting really loud. Like everyone's just really rowdy. And I first interact with Sean because Sean's like just walking around, like trying to like keep people quiet, but like socializing and mingling and like making sure everyone's having a good time and things like that. And then in the back of the room, Bindi is like way in the back, and there was another girl there. But you guys are like both doing your nails for some reason, and like one of them is the other girl was dressed as Catwoman. I can't remember what you were wearing.
Mm-hmm.
I might have been in Poison Ivy actually. Yeah.
That might have been it, but I just remember it was like so weird.
So.
Like, there's a Catwoman. It probably was Poison Ivy, and Poison Ivy doing their nails. I was like, is this real life? And like, it's not even just like basically like painting your nails. Like you've got even like a little gel manicure.
Oh yeah, with the light, the little Keurig light.
I had a little gel manicure set that I was using to do my nails, basically because I had some photo shoots the next day, and I think I was wearing Elizabeth, and I wanted to make sure my nails are the right color for that costume, but I didn't have time to do them beforehand, so I was like, screw it, I'll do it at the party. So
I don't think you made that photo shoot either.
I don't think I did either. It was at like 10 in the morning.
I think my funniest story is when we threw an after party at Animazement. We actually sold tickets, and I was the bouncer, which I'm not a big guy or not intimidating. I'm actually really sarcastic, and I have a big mouth. So I'm going to tell a condensed version of the story, but we had this back room at this bar, and there was the door into it was basically a door, and so I was standing there, and when muggles would come up we had like wristbands, so if they didn't have a wristband, I would just kind of put my arm up against the wall to block them off and be like, hey, private event, wristbands are $12, but you probably don't actually want to go back here because we're just a bunch of nerds. And some people would just say, oh, okay, cool, my fault. Some tried to like push through and intimidate me, and Brian Lee from Beat That Boogie Toad, he was right behind me, which is probably the only reason I didn't get my face smashed. Because other people like to get like big guys, like I'm staring at their nipples, and I'm like, get out of here. And they're puffing their chest, but Brian's just casually sitting behind me, like hit him if you want, but I'll ruin your day. But the best part, the best part of the evening, these two really trashed Muggle girls come up. And I did the same thing, arm against the wall. And they're like, no, our friend's in there, And I was like, oh, okay, cool. Which one's your friend? And they point at Natasha, who was having a really good time. She was dressed as Poison Ivy, and she was feeling it. She was great. And I go, oh, her. Oh, okay. What's her name? And one of them, they kind of stumble for a second. One of them goes, Angela. And I was like, oh, Angela. Yeah, that's not her name. It'll be $12 for the wristbands. And they're like, you don't know her. You don't know her at all. You don't know her. And I was like, yeah, I know her. And they're like, well, then what's her name? And I was like, well, it's not Angela. And they're like, well, you don't know her. And I go, okay, stay right here. And I walk over to Angela, and I say, Angela, like, just kiss me. And so I stare at these two girls, and Natasha pretty much just like licked me from here to there. And I just walk back over to the girls with this like shit-eating grin on my face, and I go, it's gonna be $12. And they went. I got rid of them.
Natasha and Sean, where can people see more of your stuff and awesome 3D printed cosplays?
Tell them, Tosh.
Okay, people can see more of our stuff at my Facebook page is the best way to see my stuff. It's facebook.com/Bindi cosplay, BINDI cosplay. For Sean, it would be facebook.com/nerdsocks.
Yep.
Is that right? Okay.
Yeah, very good.
And you can also check out geekfablab.com. Geek Fab Lab. It's our store for all of our 3D printed stuff.
Yep. Between those three, everything we do is online. You know how I
am. Yep. All right. Well, thank you guys so much for being on the show, and I think that's our interview for today. As always, I'm your host Ian from Saturday Morning Cosplay, and I'll see you guys on the con floor. Bye.
Bye.
See ya.